Hello and welcome back to another episode of KSP POV, where we play Kerbal Space Program in first person. So today we have a little bit of a mishmash. There's two things that we really need to get done today. One of them is send a tourist up into orbit of Kerbin, and then the other one is to drop a satellite off while we're there. And then once we get to the end, we're going to finish off this video with a build sequence, because we are going to be sending our Kerbals to the Mun, and we decided we've already filmed it. Everything has been recorded, but the episode was a little long with the Mun mission and the building sequence, so we decided to just come in here real fast and do another a tourist contract, and then we'll include the build sequence into this episode, and then next episode it will fully be about the Mun mission, and we're just gonna get going right from the beginning. So anyways, here I am just looking at the science that I can afford. I've got quite a bit, so I want to see what can help out. So I go ahead and get the landing legs, the rocketry, some electrics, and some space exploration. So those will be good for us. So first I came back here because I remembered I had a tourist trap vehicle already, but I didn't quite like it. I think we've unlocked a couple parts since then, so I feel like I can make it a little more efficiently if just by doing it from scratch. Here we are. We're just gonna do service bay with the life supplies, attack life supplies in there. We throw a reaction wheel to give it a little bit of control, and then a bunch of batteries. I don't really pay attention to how many batteries, so I just kind of shove them in there. But I do pay attention to what kind of solar panel. I try to choose the one that will give us the widest berth. Then I name it the TTSP, and that's the Tourist Trap / Satellite Placement, because this is going to be multi-purpose. So I go ahead and arm the parachutes, and I input the values. I don't think I've ever talked about it, but I like to keep my parachute values at 2,500 for its pre-deployment and 1,000 meters for its deployment. I feel like for most of the crafts that are the size, most of the crafts that I built anyways are the right size for that to be good. Anyways, I come in here, I'm gonna make a little communication satellite. I didn't like how the dishes were clipping into each other, so I just added a little separator there. And so we got the 4 main communication dishes pointed towards Kerbin, Active Vessel, the Mun, and Minmus, but then we also added that big dish right there. It's only about 10 million meters higher than the rest of the dishes, but who knows, that might come in handy. So we have that pointed as active dish. We also got to put some regular communication antennas on there, and then we decided to throw a little light. Why not? We really shouldn't use electrics that we don't need. And having a light on there is something that we don't need, especially since we're playing in POV, so we're kind of not ever gonna be able to see that light. That's just for the realism of it, I guess. But we go ahead and make this into a sub-assembly, and then when we go to come back to the tourist trap / satellite placer that we had just created, can't find it. Don't know why. Didn't save. So here we are, just take 2, just trying to speed run through and get everything put back the way that it was before. I ended up adding an extra battery in doing so. That's about where we had it before. So, yep, once again, just arming the parachutes. And we're also going to be adding the radiators onto this layer. And our solar panels don't retract, which is why they're on the decouplers, is we're going to actually just decouple them before we return into the atmosphere. We could just leave them to burn off, but why take a chance of that causing other things to explode? And so, just a regular lifter as we have been doing thus far. This kind of Rocco Max tank. The I always forget what engine that is. It's not the Mammoth. And our stage recovery says that our parachutes aren't enough to keep it, but it's also saying that it's at 99.98%, so I think I'll take that risk. You know, I may end up breaking the lower part of the engine, but that'll be fine. Get some money from it back anyways. But yeah, so here we are. We have our tourist, and we are just going to get ourselves ready to go. As per usual, we're in the Mach 1 cabin, crew cabin, and the tourist is in one of the tin cans. But the tourist can't access any of the buttons, can't do anything. So it's just this command pod that we're going to be running things from. So go ahead and turn on SAS, and yep, just take a quick peek in the tourist point of view, and yep, can't even turn the lights on in this cabin. They are under strict don't touch anything orders. All right, so here we are. Let's throw ourselves up and let's get going. Let's take this tourist out into space. So we start off pretty slowly. It's a long ascent. We're going to fast forward through some parts of this this journey to just keep things moving. That little eyeball you saw right there is a glitch with the IBA mode. Sometimes you just have to exit out of IBA mode and then come right back in, and you'll get rid of that. So if you're playing this and you have like the Kerbal's eyeball is floating in front of your view, just get back out of IBA mode and then come back in. It should be fixed. Just a little bug I found. So we're just pointing ourselves at an angle. This craft is an SSTO, single stage to orbit. We will be able to bring it all to space, so there's nothing that we really need to do. Just need to make sure that we keep an eye on our angle of attack and our time to apoapsis. So if our time to apoapsis starts falling, then that means we're not coming in at a good enough angle. You see 13.8, 14.2. Yeah, so we're going up. So just going ahead and fast forward a little bit. We only need to take the Kerbal up to 75 kilometers. We're gonna take them a little higher because that's we need our satellite at a higher round. We're gonna actually put the satellite around 200. So here I am. I'm using MechJeb to circularize, plot the circularization burn, and then I'm using Flight Computer to automate it and handle the process. But I'm getting a little hesitant because I see that I'm pointing. For the maneuver node, I have to point very low towards the horizon, and I have a feeling that this computer, every now and then when I try to use MechJeb to circularize above Kerbin, it doesn't quite calculate it right, and it ends up having me come screaming through the atmosphere, and I don't like that. So I'm going to end up handling this manually. I start the burn automatically through the flight computer, But then I start to realize that my time to apoapsis is falling. So I kill the action, I turn on SAS, and I fire again. And I point my nose upwards a little bit, away from both the maneuver node and my prograde. As you can see there, my apoapsis is going away from me. I only had about 12 seconds to spare before we would have met the apoapsis, and then at that point, we probably would have ended up having to cancel this mission and do an emergency return of our Kerbals. So there we go. We go ahead and stage off the lower stage. I guess it wasn't a single stage to orbit. In the previous version of this, it did make it to orbit, but on this one, slightly less efficient. So here we are. We're just using our Terrier engine to circularize, and then we get ourselves up to 201 kilometers for our apoapsis. And we're going to circularize that out. We're going to make that a nice even 200 kilometers all the way around. But first we're going to deploy our solar panels. And our vessel view isn't giving us any information. Sometimes it glitches out and the ship doesn't like showing. We're going to time warp our way to the apoapsis. We're going to try to do this without using the map view or maneuver nodes. We're just going to eyeball our position and get it over. I see in the camera view we've got a nice little shot of Kerbin there, so I decided to switch over to the tourist view and see if I can't give them something interesting to look at. Just tilting the craft, and of course they're very happy with that. I turn off the cabin lights because we don't exactly need them right now. And then I go ahead and deploy all the parts of the satellite, which will just give us a little bit extra solar panels for the time being. And then I remove the node because we no longer need to make those. We're just going to be eyeballing it. And then we fast forward time a little bit until we get to about 10 seconds, 13 seconds. And then we're just going to fire prograde to raise our periapsis. And there we go. Not bad. We're going to turn off our engine for now because we don't want to accidentally change our orbit. But before we go ahead and launch that satellite, we're going to just take a quick view of it by EVAing our Intrepid Kerbal ship cam, and just take a quick little visual inspection on that satellite. See that everything is deployed as well it should be. Quite a nice look on Kerbin. There's some glitching going on. I don't know why part of my suit is taking up part of the screen. I've just been having a few glitches with the Through the Eyes of the Kerbal mod, but nothing game breaking, so I haven't wanted to adjust the mods at all. I don't want to break anything. Alright, so now let's get ready to deploy our satellite. There we go. It's easy as that. So we're just gonna switch over to it real fast. We don't have connection to the KSP because we're on the wrong side of the planet, so we're just going to fast forward over because we want to make sure that it can be connected. Instantly, once I jump into the control room, we find out that it has low power, which is not encouraging. It's not great. So we just go ahead and just get some of our screens up, and these screens will be up if we ever decide to take control of this craft again. Whenever we come here, all these screens will be back to where, or be back here, and so yeah, so that's kind of nice. I like that the room keeps its state per craft. But anyways, now it's time to get back to our Kerbals and bring them home. This, however, didn't stay. between switching back and forth between the crafts. All of my screens got messed up. Now I have to put everything back in again. That's okay. So go ahead and turn the engine on, point retrograde, and get ourselves ready to come back home. So since we're close to the KSC, I'm going to actually just bring the periapsis almost straight into the ground. Normally I like to just drop it to about 42 kilometers. But this one I want to land closer to the KSC. So we're going to turn ourselves to the side and then eject our lower stage. We still had quite a bit of fuel in there, so it was a little bit of a waste, but we didn't want to have it in front of us on the way back. We want our heat shield to take the brunt of everything. So yep, so now we're just time warped our way back to the atmosphere, and then we activated our descent action groups. So as per usual, helicopters, parachutes are activated, radiators are activated. Our solar panels, since they were on the decouplers, were decoupled off, so we don't have to worry about them catching heat and exploding. So I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward the footage. It was quite a long drop, but relatively safe. Nothing too scary. Everything kind of by the book. And before we know it, our heat is already going down, and we are through the atmosphere. We're just falling, and we get a nice, gorgeous look at these mountains that we're coming up on. Too bad we're falling into the shadow. We can't see more. But our parachute deploys without a problem, and then at the appropriate height, it opens up and then drops us down to a cool 5 meters per second. And so this mission is in the bag, I would say. All we got to do is get that Kerbal home, and we'll have money and reputation to spare. And then we can take that money and reputation and put it towards our next lunar mission, which is our immediately next goal. Yep, so there we are. We landed, so we're just going to call the recovery team and wait for them to come pick us up. So now we are going to spend the rest of the episode working on building our lunar lander. Like I said before, that's going to be our next mission, and it's going to take a huge chunk of time. We're going to be doing so much in this mission that it's going to be taking up pretty much the entire episode. So decided to just leave the build portion of it on the end of this episode, so that way when we come back in for POV Season 2, Episode 7, that would be? Yeah, Episode 7. The whole of it can be the mission. So here we are, we're just tacking our, we tacked our science experiments on the side of it because I didn't want this to be so high. We could have put it in a service bay, but I didn't want it to be too tall. So I go ahead and put the solar panels up on the top, so that affords me the ability of having 4 instead of just the 2 if I were to put it on the side. And I readjust my parachutes to match so they fit a little bit better. And the solar panels I decided not to put on decouplers for no real reason. I didn't have any specific reason, but I just end up don't putting them on decouplers. I'm just like, they'll burn up in the atmosphere. And I throw some ladders all the way down, even though it's on the mud, so we don't really need them because the gravity is super low, so we can just RCS pack our way up if we need to. But at the last moment, I decided to throw some storage on here, which would mean that we would probably have to take off our EVA pack in order to access the stuff from the storage. So having ladders ends up being a good idea in that aspect. So I go ahead. We named this the Moon Frog. It's not intended to hop 2 biomes, but I believe that if we have the opportunity to collect more science, then maybe we will. But I thought Moonfrog was a fun name for it. So now I'm just putting all my science experiments on action groups, and then I'm setting up the ascent or the deployment and the descent action groups. Once again, putting in our parachutes information, and there we go. We're going to start a simulation real fast, and I found out that the crew capsule right there was backwards. All the experiments were on the wrong side, so our scientists would have had to EVA their way all the way to the other end of the ship every single time. So we go ahead and just fix that real fast. Let me check it out again. There was something else I learned there. I can't remember what we learned, but regardless, we go ahead and continue on. We put in the storage capacity. This is from the breaking ground. We go ahead and throw some solar panels in there, and experiment controller, some lights, and then try to do more lights, but end up foregoing that for more solar panels. So the idea is that wherever we land, if it's a good enough place, we might pop in and make a little base there. So I just did my transfer stage. Just a small little engine, or a small little tank with the Terror engine. It should just be enough to get me from Kerbin to the Mun, no problem. And once again, we have our big old Rockamax stage, the main booster to get us there. Some side tanks with some swivels, or I change them out for some Reliance. Normally they're swivels, but go for some Reliance. And then to give it a little more thrust of weight off takeoff, because it's starting to get real heavy, we throw some solid rocket boosters. And instead of nose cones, we change those out for parachutes, so hopefully we can save a little bit of money trying to reclaim some of our lost pieces. And it's starting to get big, so I'm doing a little auto strutting just down the center of it. Nothing, I'm not gonna auto strut the whole thing, but so yeah, I went to go see if we could take off, and then realized that more boosters will help us out in the long run. It was a very, very slow takeoff, so I decided more boosters. But anyways, that is it. That is the whole build of the Moonfrog, and we will be sending this to the Mun in the next episode. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please consider giving me a like, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.